The gospel passage that I just read says, the last will be first. But the truth is, probably nobody here really likes ever being last. I'm told they don't do it anymore. But there was a time in gym class when there was going to be an event activity of some sort. The PE teacher would choose two of the more athletic students. They would be the captains, and everybody else would stand in the middle. And one at a time, they would choose somebody to be on their team. I'll take this person, I'll take that person, I'll take this person. And of course, everybody stood there praying, Lord, please don't let me be last. We don't want to be last. Well, when I was in high school, I was in a seminary high school. In my senior year, a group of us who liked volleyball, including me, we would play volleyball all the time. Every time there was a break or, finish the lunch real quickly and then have time to play some volleyball. And the group would come and they'd always real quickly choose sides. And I can recall one time, they took one person, then the other one, this one, and it came down to one person. Moi. And finally, this team said, do we have to? We had Herb the last time. Of course, I handled it pretty well. I got over it. And the fact that that happened 55 years ago and 178 days, it doesn't bother me at all. Nobody really likes to be last. But in this parable, we find that those who worked last, were chosen last and worked only 1 hour, were the truly blessed ones. But it's an incredible parable that most Americans, probably people all over the world, even in the time of Jesus, had trouble with. But you have to go back to the opening line. It's not about work. It's not about a vineyard. It's not about wages. The opening line is, the kingdom of God is like. It's like the landowner. The landowner who chooses and invites and includes. It's a story of inclusion, a story of generosity. And the generosity actually began even before the payment was done at the end of the day. The generosity was done when the landowner continued to go out. Day workers would line up. That was pretty common. It's actually still done in the 21st century. Day workers would line up, and people who needed somebody would come. So it says at daylight. So it was probably from 6 in the morning till 6 at night. A long day, no question about it. But the landowner kept going back. And it wasn't just that he needed more workers. That may be true. But certainly towards the end, he did it only because he was concerned those people had not had any work or income all day long. He even says, why are you still standing here? Nobody hired us. The generosity was there. I will include you. Now, the mistake of the ones who had worked all day was that they could not share in the sense of generosity. They immediately said, it's not fair. How many times we hear kids nowadays say, it's not fair? How many times do we hear adults say, it's not fair? Somebody got a break that I did not get. It's not fair. But that's not the point at all. It's generosity. Wouldn't it have been great if the ones who had worked all day could have thought, those poor people, they stood all day long hoping somebody would hire them. And they got included and they got paid. They're going to be able to feed their kids tonight. Wouldn't that have been the spirit of the master, of the landowner? The kingdom of God is always about including people. Different stages in people's lives, different circumstances, different times, different opportunities, but inclusion and then great generosity. None of us earns the kingdom of God. It's freely given. The landowner says, I am generous. Don't be envious of my generosity, but you can share it. Share the generosity in the same spirit. So we've got to learn how to get beyond always making comparisons. The other thing that comes with comparisons is ranking. Have you ever noticed that? Where we rank people. Like this one gets more money than I, or this one has greater status, or I'm going to work my way up the ladder. We rank people. Does that really matter in the long run if we're using what God has given us? I remember when my father was in a nursing home. For 4.5 years, he had suffered a debilitating stroke. And his whole right side was paralyzed. He was unable to walk, unable to take care of himself. He had already lost his hearing, but now he couldn't really speak either. So it was very difficult, and he was often confused. And being a big family, we made sure that one of us visited virtually every day. We spent time with him. But what I can say for sure in those 4.5 years is that my father did not know or care about who the administrator of that nursing home was. It was well run, so the administrator was important, but that meant nothing to my dad. And I doubt that my dad knew the director of nursing. She probably knew him and his needs, but that wasn't important to Dad. The one that was important to Dad was the one nurse's aide who was there every day to help get him out of bed. The one who would situate him and take care of his needs as the day went on. In fact, my father called her his buddy. But I think about it, after Dad's death, I went back and I thanked her for her kindness. But I think about it is that she was probably the lowest paid person on the staff. And if you have a totem pole, she was at the bottom. It's like she didn't have any clout, and yet the significance of what she did really mattered. We are different in many ways. We have different jobs, different responsibilities, different accountabilities. But as we use those graciously and generously, then we are part of the kingdom of God. We are included. And that allows us the space to reach out and include other people.